Hey, thanks so much for listening to the Ridge Community Church podcast. My name is John. I'm one of the pastors on staff at the Ridge, and our vision is to bring the hope of Jesus into every home. So as a piece of that, our goal each week is to bring you something that's hopeful and helpful. So subscribe to this podcast to make sure you don't miss any hopeful and helpful conversations. Hey everyone, and thanks for listening to this episode of the Ridge Community Church podcast. If you find today's episode hopeful and helpful, then please follow or subscribe and then rate and review so that more people can find the conversation. In today's episode, we're joined by the Greenfield Worship Pastor at the Ridge, Evan Schwartz, and his wife Carrie. This conversation is going to be a two-part episode, and during the first half of the conversation, Evan and Carrie share their story of how they got to the Ridge and how they knew God was calling them to come here. This is the first half of my conversation with Evan and Carrie. Hi, Evan and Carrie. Thanks for coming on the Ridge podcast.
You bet.
Hi.
Well, would you mind telling me and telling everybody a little bit about your family and maybe specific question, what's your favorite thing to do as a family?
Well, so I'm Evan, and of course my wife, Carrie. We have 3 kids. Our oldest, Lily, is 11. And our middle kiddo, Hallie, she is 9 now, just turned 9. And our youngest, Lamarcus, is 5.
Yeah, my name's Carrie, and I'm a former elementary teacher, but since our oldest was born, I've been mostly stay-at-home mom with them, and I have had different work-from-home type jobs. So my current position is at a accounting firm that does accounting for churches, working remotely here in our new house.
Yep. And I sing at the church.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah, you do. And so favorite fun thing to do? I mean, you got a little bit of an age range there.
Yeah.
And so is there something that your family is maybe super into right now or has historically been into?
Right now, I'd say our main thing as a family is just settling into our new house, trying to get everything unpacked. We landed a great house that has a great backyard with a pool. So I'm getting really excited to have that ready to get into this summer.
Yeah, so everybody's favorite family activity is going to be swimming, while my favorite activity is going to be maintaining a pool. So I'm going to be figuring out what that looks like and how to do that. So
watching lots of YouTube videos of like chlorine testers and things like that. Yeah.
I have watched YouTube videos, how to open a pool for the season. And they have great graphics, lots of good things there. Swimming is just one of those fun activities you can have friends over with. I think we're all about experiences. I wish we were sometimes the family that likes to sit around the TV and watch a long movie. Our kids just do not do that. I would love for them to sometimes hone in on one thing, no talking for a little while, but we just love to do things. And the best way to do things is with other people. So yeah, we love having shared experiences with other families, maybe similar age and stage. If not, we love hanging out with just people in general and sharing a great conversation, baseball game, drinks, food. It's always good to sit around food with people.
Have you had a favorite experience you guys have done as a family since you've been in Milwaukee?
Good question.
Well, we have been to the Mars Cheese Castle on a couple of occasions now. Highly recommend.
A couple of occasions.
Yeah.
Like, this wasn't a one and done. This was like, no, we're coming back to this place.
Yeah.
Our most recent one, we went to Great Wolf Lodge, and so we stopped on the way home that evening, and so that was, great dinner experience at the Cheese Castle. We like to eat out. I'd say we're kind of foodies. We like trying new local places. So, anything specific? We've checked out a lot of parks. As a family. We've gone to a baseball game.
Yep. Baseball game was fun. There's lots of activities for kids to do that doesn't include watching baseball. because they're not going to do that. In the same way that they're not going to watch a movie, they're not going to watch a baseball game. It's just not going to happen. But the Brewers are pretty good. They have a good kids area to maintain their attention at least twice during a baseball game.
Is that the better than average score twice?
Yeah, that's a pretty good score, I think, for family. I wanted to go back and do the things again. Still haven't seen a sausage race. We haven't stuck around long enough to see that one take place. Maybe we need to go to an afternoon game to participate in that one.
Okay, so you guys mentioned that you're new to the area. Would you mind maybe sharing a little bit about your story of how did you get to Milwaukee?
Yeah. So Evan and I both grew up in Central Illinois. And went to college in Central Illinois. And then Evan got his first job in ministry in Houston, Texas, in a suburb of Houston in Katy. And so we moved there together. That's where all three of our kids were born. We lived there for 11 years. And we felt God calling us to a different ministry. And when we knew we needed a change, we wanted to be back closer to family. So we were a decent driving distance from both of our parents. So just looking all over the Midwest, and we accepted another job in the Indianapolis area. So we were in a suburb of Indianapolis for about 2.5 years at a church in Carmel, Indiana. And we lived in Fishers, Indiana. So we were there for 2.5 years. And so that's been our adult lives.
That's where the story gets interesting, because as we were looking to kind of relocate back to the Midwest, I had reached out to a friend that worked for a ministry headhunting organization, which the Ridge was working with. And he gave me the name of the church in Carmel in Indianapolis, and also gave me the name of the Ridge. And we had multiple interviews with the Ridge back in 2020, and really enjoyed our conversations. It was one of those scenarios where I was doing the interview, and that was with our wonderful executive pastor, Jody Tonarelli. And, Carrie was kind of like off camera on a Zoom conversation. And Jody was like, I hear somebody in the background. Get on camera here. And so we really enjoyed our conversations in the interview process in 2020. At the time, the Ridge was hiring a worship leader at the permanent Oak Creek Franklin campus. And the way it was looking, the cost of living in Southeast Wisconsin, and living on a one-person income as a family of 5, it just wasn't fully in the cards as we kind of tried to work through that stuff. So loved our conversations, but kind of took our names out of the hat as we kind of navigated through that stuff, but remained friends. I would reach out to Jody as we ended up in Indianapolis, and I would check in as hey, have you guys, hired your role? And then ask, what are you doing for Christmas? Because ministry guy over here would like to get tips on, ideas on what other churches are doing. And so we'd kind of stay in touch every several months. And then this last fall, she gave me a call and said, listen, there's a new role at the Ridge, and you're the first person I'm contacting. Your family, you're the ones who need to be here. You need to be the people filling this role. And at first it was are you sure you have the right person? Do you know, why are you so confident in this? It's very flattering. And at first we were kind of hey, we've not even lived in the Indianapolis area, a full 2.5 years now. It feels like it was right at the 2-year mark. And it was we're not, thanks, super flattered, thank you, but no thank you. And as we kind of stayed on the phone, I was like, hey, tell me more about, the role. And I may have some people in mind that might be good for it. So we talked for a little while, and I gave her a couple names of some friends in ministry, and thought, these people might be really great for what you're talking about. And she said, I'm so appreciative of that. But no, you guys are it. You're the ones.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a gift of prophecy or what you want to call that, but I don't know. I kind of came home and just said to Carrie, like, if it ever feels like God is trying to get your attention, maybe this is one of those instances, and maybe we just need to have our ears open and our eyes wide open, because you don't want to miss it if God is speaking to you and using others to do it. So yeah, we just kind of like started at that point. Like we prayed for a little while, and then interesting that weekend when all that kind of took place, she went to a women's conference and I went to a worship conference where my coming back home and her leaving to her conference overlapped by several hours. And so we didn't get to see each other for about 6 days. It was a 5-6 days, something like that. And so then when we finally got back together, we took our kids to a park, because that was how we could have a moment of sanity to actually talk to each other.
Yeah.
With 3 kids around. And I don't know, we just spent a lot of time individually in prayer and said, let's apply ourselves to this. And if this is what God is doing in our lives, it's going to become clear. And so we just started having lots of conversations with Jody and with Mark, asked tons and tons of questions, and then they invited us to come to Milwaukee for a visit. And I think for that visit, at the end of November of last year, we were, just trying to take everything in and be really good at observing and listening and experiencing everything. And this is kind of what I walked away with, when we came back. It's like if we were looking for something to make us not excited about the opportunity, like looking for things that said, nah, you shouldn't continue in this process. You shouldn't do this. There just wasn't anything. There was nothing. And the people that we got to meet, the conversations we were able to have and learn more about the vision for the ridge that God has for Southeast Wisconsin and the Milwaukee area. There's a lot to be excited about around here.
Yeah.
So, Carrie, when Evan starts sharing these things with you, what's your reaction? Are you like, Evan, we just got here? Or are you like...
So he texted me when I was at work and he said, hey, I just got this either email or phone call. I can't remember. And my instant response was, no, like just tell them no. Like we just moved here. We can't move our kids again. And I mean, he was on the same page of like, we did not want to be the type of family that moved around all the time. We both grew up in the same towns our whole lives. And, we had spent 11 years in Houston. We didn't want to, be a family that moved all the time.
Yeah.
And and he was kind of on the same page. And around that time is kind of when we went to those retreats. And I think just giving that up to God and, saying, telling God, like, we want to do what you want us to do. And if that's staying here, make that be extremely clear. And if that's going somewhere else, let that be extremely clear for us. And, so after those retreats for both of us, we were kind of more open to the conversation. And it was kind of a unique opportunity in that in most interviews, you're on the receiving end of questions. And in this scenario, we could kind of be the ones asking questions.
Yeah.
So we had a couple, we had a pretty long list of questions we had. And overall, we just really loved the vision of the Ridge and, felt that it was a place we should be. And then, so then comes the, well, what about our kids? And so that kind of became our focus of like helping them feel better about it. And so on one of our visits before Evan accepted the job, we brought all 3 of them here and, tried to have them be part of the conversation as well.
So I'm sure everybody can relate to this this idea of, you want to do what God's calling you to do. You want that. But at the same time, you have this thing that maybe you're holding on to, and it could be lots of different things, right? But what was your guys' trick, or how did you go through the process of saying, no, we need to open our hands and actually be open and not just say we're open and not just say, yeah, if God calls us, but really go with like, no, God, we're open-handed in this.
We had several difficult conversations where it was kind of like, let's bring clarity to what our feelings are. Like, what is it that we feel is causing us to say no to something that maybe God is speaking into within our lives? And so as we kind of like had those conversations, maybe the question, I want to say it right, was like, what is it really that is giving us this feeling of, maybe it's safety or stability. It's a heck of a lot easier to stay put than to pack up your house of 5 people and move it several hours. Like, there's a lot to that. But then, there is a lot of comfort in established relationships. And relationships are a really big deal to us. But that doesn't mean that just because you're leaving one that you're abandoning. It's that maybe there's an opportunity somewhere else that God wants you to apply that relational ability there as well. Not to say that your work is done in some place, like you haven't done enough or something like that, but that when God is giving you an opportunity to use the unique gift that he has put inside you as an individual with other people, I think it's hard to leave behind the gifting that you have where you're at. So to say, like, if our heart is for connecting with people and having great relationships where we invest in our care for people, when you're in the middle of that, it's hard to say that there's opportunity elsewhere when you're doing it right where you're at. But I think we just kind of clarified, we want to follow what God is calling that opportunity for, instead of remaining in what is comfortable and easier because it's already established.
Will you add anything to that, Carrie?
In other circumstances in my life that, I've tried to listen to God's calling, I think it's something that I lean on is like, okay, God just continually puts this on my heart and on my mind. And it's not something that, that lets up, whether that's over days or weeks or months and, past circumstances. And in another circumstance in our life where like I was really praying for, okay, let us know what the right decision was. I remember praying like, okay, God, just close the door if this is not the right door. Like, if this is not where you want us to go, close the door. And it just, and then that's actually, this was something in a job search right out of college for Evan. He was interviewing at a church that neither of us were really excited to go to, but we kind of just felt like, well, okay, this is first time ministry right out of college. We don't really have many options here. Like, this kind of seemed like our only choice, and everything seemed like it was going to be green lights. And I was not excited about going there, but I was also like, okay, well, if this is where God wants us to be and this is our only option, then I guess this is going to be it. But I prayed, God, if, this is not it, please close the door. And I remember thinking like, all the doors are open. There's no way the doors are going to be closed unless we say no. Well, it turns out that at the very end, the door was closed. And I was very thankful for that, to be honest. But just kind of relating that to this circumstance as well, of like, there was no there was nothing that was a flag that said like, no, you shouldn't go here. Everything about the Ridge made us excited, and it was something we wanted to be a part of. It was a change we needed. We felt like for our lives and for our kids too, even though moving was hard, and in the moment, like all the stress of moving and what that means for our kids especially, that's a temporary hard thing, but we felt like in the long run this was going to be what's best for our kids. And so I think all of those factors combined just kind of helped solidify, this is where we need to be.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting to look back years ago at our house in Houston. We had bought some artwork as like a new centerpiece for some big family pictures that we had gotten done. And we chose the phrase that was on this artwork. We put our family pictures around it, and the phrase is home is wherever we are together.
No, it's not that. It's together.
Edit. Edit.
It's together is the best place to be.
All right. So looking back, it's kind of incredible.
No, this is staying in. This is gold, man.
Dang it. Come on, Don.
Okay. So
what was the phrase that's on the painting then?
Together is the best place to be.
Okay, not the best phraseologist, all right? Especially because I just used the word phraseologist. But together is the best place to be. That still means what it means, similar to the other phrase that I said that's not on the painting. That when we put that there in 2019, we had no idea what the future of our lives looked like as a family. But we have yet to fully decorate the home that we are in. We do not have outlet covers on the home that we are in. But I am excited to put that artwork up because I think it is like a portrait of God's provision over our lives, that we've experienced a lot of changes as a family, but we have experienced them together, and we're going to be good.
I love how you guys look to the past moments where God did something cool and showed up in a big way as part of your process and making decisions going forward in the future. I think that's one of the things that's so easy to forget, is looking back and be like, well, God showed up and did this and this and this. And then if we don't remember, it becomes so much more challenging to trust that he'll do that again. And so I love that that's part of the process, is like, no, he did this already. We're good going forward when we rely on that and we do this. I think that's a really cool picture of just modeling how to hold tightly to the things God has done in your life. So I love that.
Yeah.
Well, that was the first half of my conversation with Evan and Carrie, and I want to thank them again for just sharing their experience. I love the way that they used past moments of God doing something in their life to give them clarity and guidance for how they could trust him going forward. I think that's something that we can all take to heart. In next week's episode, Evan and Carrie are going to share their story of coming to faith and why investing in relationships is such an important value in their life. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Ridge Podcast, and make sure to follow and subscribe so that you don't miss any hopeful and helpful conversations.